My name is Dr. Dee Blackie, and I'm actually a medical anthropologist. So I basically, whilst all of you are very interested in identifying various illnesses or diseases or disabilities and trying to assist the child with some sort of diagnosis and some kind of remediation or medication or whatever is required, I'm really interested in how that child...
They mostly don't like the real world, and then of course there's a dissociative world where they've stepped out of themselves. And then there's the meltdown world, which we often see in public spaces like malls, where children are completely overwhelmed. And then there's the shutdown world, where they literally just, in fact, this is what I did. So every exam I went into, I literally would just fall fast asleep. And of course, all the teachers would say to me, oh, she's so naughty, she's so lazy, she's so this, she's so that. And of course, now I've done the research, I know that it's a trauma response. So the minute the exam was in front of me, I would just immediately fall dead asleep, and it didn't matter. In fact, one young girl, we recently had an exhibition at the Children's Memorial Institute where we created each of those worlds as actual planets hanging from a ceiling. And the shutdown world is a little guy, there was a little spaceman at his desk trying to write, and there was this huge planet with this blanket over it in his hands trying to grab him. Because that's how this little girl described it to me. She said it's like almost like a big duvet with hands, and she called them sleep attacks. And once that duvet grabbed them, poof, she was fast asleep. And didn't matter what anybody did, they wouldn't be able to wake her up. Often live in parallel worlds, and of course, if they're allowed to live very much in this world, they're very happy, sort of well-adjusted children, as it were. But if they're forced to sort of live in this real world and they're in this space a lot, which most of them are, because a lot of people don't understand what they're going through, then they experience the world very traumatically. They have very cautious bodies, but extremely adventurous brains, and they always go with the bad guy. So it doesn't matter which child I was speaking to, they identify with the bad guys. Oh, you're kidding me. Oh my goodness, okay. And then my phone goes. Well, I turned it off. So this is just an illustration of, I asked these kids to say, well, show me your body when it's happy versus when it's sad. And he literally, when his body's happy, says, I'm poop. And when I'm sad, my body, I feel like more poop. And this child was struggling with all sorts of issues around gut, around polyvagal issues, you name it, central nervous system sort of processing issues. But you can kind of see how they experience the world incredibly traumatically. They all are sort of what I call rebels with a cause. From a sort of perception control and participation point of view, sort of three key insights. All of them struggled with sensory processing, sensory discrimination, and integration challenges. There was this distinct sense of a lack of habitus. So I almost don't know, I wake up every morning and it's like waking up in a stranger's body. And then the sense of feeling very permeable, like I don't know where my body sort of stops and the world begins. So this is just really talking about those different sensory systems, but these pictures illustrate how that sort of, you can sort of see this young girl, is that the pointer? There we go. There she's happy and she's got this strong aura, and there the aura has broken down completely, and she, everything is falling apart, and often it falls apart, lots of vomiting. These are just some of my spaces I explored with kids, and these were the sensory spaces that encouraged me to start the sensory space, so snooze-in rooms and the boxing gym environment. The final point around flow, communication, and adaptability, really just talking about this stop and start between hyper-focus or allowing, or stopping the flow of life. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but Amanda's showed you her stimming language. And then finally, these children are incredibly strategic because their whole life is about trying to manage their bodies and to manage themselves strategically. So I'm just going to race through all of this. I've spoken to all of this, and it was really trying to say, can we create a spectrum that doesn't show a problem on either side? So you're either sort of high functioning or low functioning. So it was really about saying, well, imagine if we are either connected to the world or disconnected to the world. But this doesn't have to imply, sorry, just get rid of that. This doesn't have to imply defection. Or you could be quite permeable to the world, which actually opens children up to a lot of insights to the world, or you can be quite sort of almost put a barrier around yourself and stop that permeability. Control or lack of control, flow or stopping the flow, being on purpose or just living in the present moment. These children this was a new kind of spectrum to explore their world. I'm not going to talk too much about this other than the fact that we know that neurodiversity is the future. This is how our bodies and brains are changing. We're seeing more and more children diagnosed, and when we look at some of the stats coming out of out of Europe and the Pasteur Institute, they're now saying that neurodiversity and specifically autism and traits of autism are in the population. So it's how our bodies and brains are changing. So it was at this point, and now I'm going to really fly through these slides, that I approached Professor Kovadia and said, I would like to create a sensory space in the Children's Memorial Institute. I just flew past it there. We have 365 children in the autism school at the Children's Memorial Institute, as well as all sorts of other children who have various disabilities and challenges. And so that's our little creche. Amanda, I've already shown you. And what we're trying to understand, there are different approaches to language, where you use stimming as language, different approaches to learning, and different approaches to empathy and how you engage with other people. So I'm going to flick through this because you can see it all at our little stand. It's just really talking about the senses. It's actually 14 different rooms, and I'm showing you a before and after. So that was our passage, our entrance passage, which is now this beautiful sunshiny rainbow space. That was the sea passage, which is now being turned into a coral reef. That's what was the kitchen, which is now a tidal touch pool and a maze that tests your executive functioning. This was our jellyfish bounce zone, where you get to bounce on various jet balls. There's a textured anemone room. There's a whale pod room where we have sort of spaces where you can hang in these beautiful therapy. Our land passage, where you can do all sorts of fun things with musical instruments. There's a monkey swing room. There's a birdie flap room where we actually encourage you to stim and flap your hands like a birdie. There's a boulder boundary room where we have 15,000 balls. I've got a picture of Prof in there. I'm happy to share it with the conference. And then there's a sand sensory room. And interestingly, this little guy here, he's 4 years old, still in nappies, can't say words, but can spell. So he might say mummy, B-E-A-U-T-I-F-U-L, but he certainly can't pull together a sentence. It's called hyperlexia, and it's an ability to decode words, but not actually say them or string them together. And he could do that, and then he jumped in the ball pond with his mummy and daddy, and next thing is I started hearing, where is daddy? I love mummy. And we've actually got children who've literally engaged in our space. They've never spoken before at the school, and they start speaking in this environment. This is our chill zone. We also do lots of workshops with adults, autistic. We're trying to start an adult autistic protective workshop. You'll see some of the stuff that we make with them. It's all made from recycled, and that's the WITS pick. So this is the WITS MSc Life group. They were here at the sensory space this week. We were making all sorts of sensory toys. You can see Dr. Kovadia and Janine van der Linde from OT. And we were making toys and teaching the various students how to make sensory toys in very resource-limited areas. So all of our materials are made from recycled materials. We also do workshops and exhibitions. So this exhibition actually made it to WITS Medical School. It's called Your Brain is a Garden, where we imagine a brain as different gardens. And of course, if your brain is a garden and your thoughts are seeds, you can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. But we're trying to teach our community around us about their brains and how they work. And if that was about how your brain works, the Neuroverse Galactica was about how different brains work and neurodiversity. So I'm gonna finish with just a quick video, but just to show you the impact that these sensory spaces, adventurous sensory spaces, can have on children.
Explore the world in your way. Create memories that you won't forget. You only live once, so don't waste your time. Please don't waste your time. Don't waste your time.
Anyway, that's me. Thank you very much. You can get this whole presentation at beeblackie.com. And if you look at this, I'm very good at doing speaker notes in on my PowerPoint presentation. So if you download it on the neurodiversity side, if you have a look at the speaker notes, it does give you a lot more detail than any references that you might want. But thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to invite me to this conference. It's not normally a space I would present at, so I hope it was interesting for you.
Thanks, that was amazing. So open up for questions, and again, an invitation, I'm sure on behalf of Dee, also Andrew, an invitation to go and see the space.
Yes.
And
bring
play
your
around.
teams. I mean, it's the most amazing space just to bring your teams because, I mean, essentially I have now a disability map as well, and you can identify the children, and then I make you go and experience the space from the perspective of that child, which is pretty cool.
Must be the magic voice of hello. So, I'm so happy to meet you. I remember yes, I'm in from Lombardo Sanctuary, and we've had orphan children since 2001 with HIV, and now in adulthood we are reaping all of these things that we can see, and we're really backing with our adults. And so you'll definitely be visiting us, and we'll be visiting you. So I'm just so thrilled that we have somebody that we can discuss this with. And I think it's something that is so misunderstood. And even us, who thought we were giving a loving home, and why aren't you grateful for what you had? But they act out in ways that we every week sit there with our mouths hanging open, going, "You're kidding me, how did that happen?" So I think it is such an interesting field, and thank you so much for that. You've just reached the right hole with me. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And Lynn, just to say, we don't charge anyone to use this space. We do charge, like Kingsmead College and Red Hill when they want to visit us. We charge them for school visits or individual visits, but when we have APOs, we don't, all the Johannesburg baby homes and children homes actually visit us. They all come for free. The school, everyone comes for free. And so you can literally just phone us up. Please make sure everybody go get a card, and you can literally just phone and book an appointment and come and see us. So, and we're there for you. Thank you.
There's another hand there.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to know if you accommodate children that are, like, severely affected, like in a gross way. Do you
So-
have such children?
Yeah.
And
So
I just want to know how are you able to retrieve or get any response from them? Because from what I've heard, what you were presenting there, they are verbal, they are non-verbal, they are able to respond maybe by doing something on the picture. But now with the grossly ones who just stare and drool and whatever, I'm just curious, how do you derive any response from them? And then, yeah.
So we do. We actually have quite a few of those children in the school. We actually have an aftercare place called Snowballs, and a lot of them, even the young adults, come and spend the day at Snowballs, and they come down to our space. So obviously we do have wheelchair access, and we're trying to get a lot better at accommodating wheelchairs, but we do absolutely accommodate wheelchairs, and the whole space is accessible. So with those children, what we tend to find is that we're looking at different kinds of measurements. So we talk between ourselves around moments of connection, where you will see that they're not just sitting and drooling, but they'll actually connect. And we also see what we call, I can't remember what the second one was, but our base one is called Moments of Joy. And we've got a home that visits us from Brakpan. It's the biggest mental and physical disability home in, I think, the country. And they bring their young adults to us, and literally they arrive in 2 trucks, one with the wheelchair and one with the kids. Many of them are very impaired. We often get the BITS medical students in to come and assist us, so each person gets allocated a student. We give them a noodle, and they play whack-a-mole on the students all day. But it's fantastic, and it's incredible to see how children who we thought were entirely unreachable, we put them in a space, and that's where they want to stay. They'll be very clear that this is where they want to stay, and they will just stay in that environment. So especially, for instance, that anemone room, which has got lots of textures and it's got lots of different lights. They don't flash, but they move. They absolutely love that space. But even the ball pond, we pick people up and put them into the ball pond. Their OTs often go in with them, or their physios. And even children who've got CP, they can't actually respond. They can teach them, like a ball will roll into their face, a CP child will just let it roll. We can actually then show them how to move the ball away if they've got gross motor movements and so on. So we have very impaired children coming to the space. And the amazing thing is, it's not a space where you really get involved as a therapist. You really just put the child in the space and they find the room that works for them and the space that works for them. So when we especially have quite impaired children, we don't normally have a lot of children. You've maybe only got 6 children in the space at that time. They've got 12 different to 14 different rooms that they can engage with, and they do engage with every space. It's amazing.
This kind of space only exists because there's a place like Children's Memorial Institute, and I think it requires advocacy because it's constantly under threat of being taken away by government who are not looking after the building. And many organizations are there. This is just one of them. But services are offered at no cost to NPOs. And so there's, you might have seen a lot about CMI going off on all the advocacy that's required for CMI because it's a 100-year-old building. It was the first hospital on the subcontinent. And without much advocacy, we may lose all these fantastic services that are being offered by the organization and many other organizations, well-known organizations like Teddy Day Clinic and Childline, Hotel Hope, etc. But gee, that was an amazing journey on this. Thank you very, very much. Can I just